Well, hi. Welcome to my first published coaching session. I guess before we get started, a couple things. One thing we talked about earlier is that this will be going up on YouTube, so we both kind of have to be conscious of that. And for anyone in the audience, I'm a coach. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a medical professional. I in no way telling people how to fix or prescribe or diagnose or any of that good stuff. Mostly just acting as a mirror and listening and supporting, uh, having a reflection of kind of what you bring here to the table. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get started?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Um, no, I'm ready. A little
Okay.
nervous, but ready to
All right.
proceed.
Where would you like to start?
Um, well, should I provide a little introduction as to why, like I'm doing coaching sessions with you privately. I met with you once, and why I decided to do
Sure.
the
Yeah.
sessions so
Yeah.
that way
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand because we have a lot of similarities, but we're all unique in reasons why. But I have a lot of trauma from my past, especially related to relationships and maintaining long term relationships. Um, Mostly romantic relationships, but to a certain extent, I've noticed a little bit in friendships as well. And I have a fear of abandonment, and I have a lot of self sabotaging behaviors in relationships. So it's hard for me to maintain a long term relationship. And I have some triggers and just reactive behaviors that I haven't been able to get a hold of, and just find better coping skills to deal with my trauma and my triggers so that I can have a much more fulfilling life and ultimately possibly a relationship. But I'm learning how to be happy on my own first.
It's good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Um, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, I know we had talked before, and I was supposed to journal and do some meditation. And I have done some meditation, which has been helpful, but for some reason I can't journal. But I'm not going to judge myself for that. But I'm really just struggling. I think it's hard for me still to deal with painful emotions. I still want to run from them and, numb and just, focus on the external. I don't want to look in at myself. It's too painful, and I'm struggling to overcome that.
Okay.
So I'm looking for tips.
Okay. How are you feeling right now?
Um, Today I've been a little sad,
Okay.
lonely.
What is it? Are you okay being with that sadness or being with that loneliness?
No, I can only take it in small doses
Okay, that's
because
fair. I
it's
mean, I,
pretty intense for me. But partly it's situational right now. I'm not always this way, but because I just suffered a loss with a relationship, and I don't do well with silent treatment when somebody doesn't respond to my text.
Mhm.
That to me is excruciatingly painful. I mean, within reason, like short term, if somebody's gone, and I know they're going to be gone, and they've communicated that to me, but when we're going on, several days, that to me is it just feels abusive, and I don't know. It affects my self esteem. I allow it to affect my self esteem because I'm sure buried deep inside, I feel like I'm defective and that I need their validation. I mean, I can get validation from other people that willingly give it to me, but
Mhm.
from time to time, I still feel like I have to work for it. It's more rewarding when I have to work from it, from the chase from somebody, that intermittent reinforcement. And I guess I just still get addicted to that, the dopamine high, because there are plenty of other men, that have asked me out, but I'm just not interested because I don't know. It's just it doesn't provide that high.
Hmm.
I know that's flawed.
Can you talk a little bit about, you said that you recently had a loss.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, somebody that's been in and out of my life since 2014, but they were out for a better part of 2 years until the spring we reconnected.
Hmm.
And on three separate occasions, I got triggered by his silence, and it just kind of escalated. The last time, I guess it escalated a little bit too much.
Hmm.
Um, but the first two times it was maybe just a couple weeks, and he came back, and now it was like over Labor Day weekend, and we've spoken one time since then, and that's it. So in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, this is it. We're done,
Hmm.
and just try to give him
What,
space. Yeah.
what does loss mean to you? Like, I understand you like to get you enjoy validation from a significant other is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to like lose, what would it mean to lose this person? What would it mean if you didn't talk to this person again?
Well, it's hard for me because I didn't think that you could regress once. I've been in therapy a lot and I thought I worked through this. So the last time when I lost him, it was hard at first, but I adjusted. And I mean, I would have said back then, to a certain extent, I'm saying again, like it's my identity, even though I know it's not, because I have carved a life for myself outside of his identity. And I told you in the other conversation, like the whole quarantine thing with COVID was actually a blessing in disguise because it was the first time I really wasn't in, I call it a pseudo relationship because I've never been years since I've been in like a genuine relationship, but this hot and cold stuff. But I was on my own and I did learn peace and contentment and I didn't need the dopamine high. And that's actually when I got my degree. I'm a nurse, but I'm RN, and I finally got my bachelor's degree during the whole COVID thing. And I didn't have, I had emotions, but they weren't so extreme up and down.
Hmm.
But I wasn't around people either, and that's not the way to be. So then I reconnected with him, and I feel like some of it I kind of regressed,
Hmm.
and I don't know how that happened.
What does regress mean to you?
I think it's the negative thought patterns.
So what I'm hearing is that negative thought patterns have
About
come back
myself.
that were there before.
Yeah, yeah. Thinking I need this person in my life, even though I know on the surface, I do really genuinely love him,
Hmm.
but the ball's in his court, and I can't, like, I want to get in there and I want to control it and I want to like convince him and like kind of like it's a codependent relationship, like me trying to fix him and he kind of fix me so I can give him suggestions on how to fix himself. But
Hmm.
ultimately, he has to be willing to play, do his part. And I won't see that happening. Oh,
Okay.
especially if he's not talking to me right now. So
Yeah.
it need
Yeah.
done too.
So can we return a little bit back to the concept of sadness?
Yes.
And I want to say, like, I don't want to encourage you to push yourself into sadness to the point where it's overwhelming. Like, I don't see how that is going to be helpful. But I'm wondering, kind of, can you go a little bit into the sadness?
Yeah.
Like,
I will just tell you, preface it with I think because I feel things more intense. It's my fear because I actually do feel things like I would need like a week off of work. It's like that
mm,
intense for me. And I
hmm,
think a nurse, my job is really quite stressful, especially right now. Like in the past too. Like I had to take like a day or two off just to recover from a breakup, and it was I mean I've improved in that. Maybe they're not quite as intense because I couldn't even eat, and I would like have to buy baby food
mm.
and get a prescription for Xanax to sleep. I'm not that bad anymore, so um, but yeah, what was the question about feeling them?
Can you
We
go a
try
little bit
to.
into the sadness?
I don't like to feel it. It's hard for me to identify it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I get thoughts confused with it.
Mm. Well, so what are the thoughts around the sadness?
Well, it's always the same, like I feel abandoned, I feel rejected, unloved, not good enough, discarded, second choice, all those things.
Okay. So let's say that you have been discarded. Let's say that you are second choice. What does that mean?
So it's really just kind of hurtful. Like it's like taking a knife, twisting it into your heart, I guess. Because of
Uh,
my capacity to love so deeply, like I feel like it's on another level compared to how other people can love.
hmm,
Like because I would do anything, like we could just to help the people that I love and be there
mhm,
for them. And I just feel like so many are so quick to leave and like it's so shallow and like we live in a disposable society. I don't know.
mhm. Okay, I can understand that.
Hmm.
Is is it possible that so one like so you and I met through like an attachment community talking about insecure attachment, various attachment
Yeah.
types. And one of the things that's kind of talked about a lot is that to meet someone who's more secure, one kind of has to be more secure.
Right. You
But
date
it's
around.
hard to meet someone more secure if you're not more secure.
Yeah. Or you
Now,
won't even be attracted to that. You'll think they're boring.
yeah, exactly.
I
So
mean,
that's exactly kind of where I'm going right
I would
here.
like to see a success story where somebody's walked to that other side and is attracted to it. But I
Is
guess in the group.
you've done some work on yourself.
I've done a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I have a lot of,
So kind of going back to that principle of you're not going to be attracted to someone who is secure unless you've done the work to become more secure. If you're dating someone who isn't doing the work and you're becoming more secure, if you're their second choice, that might be because you're too secure for them.
well, I kind of slide in and out of security, so that's a tough question to answer. But yes, I think because every time I put up a boundary is when he kind of
Mm-hmm.
gets away because it's very. But when things are going good, he knows and will admit what he does wrong
Mm-hmm.
or what areas he needs to work on. But I don't see him trying to work on it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's whenever I put up a boundary or tell him about how, and I'll say it gently, but he can't take the criticism.
Mm-hmm.
But because I have so much empathy, then I sit there looking at him like he's a wounded boy. Instead of focusing on my pain, I'm focused on his, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Empathy without boundaries can be dangerous because you can start really feeling for this other person, but if you don't have boundaries to make it so that they have space to kind of take care of their own needs and whatever that may be, then you can overextend yourself
Oh,
and
yeah, I'm
not
right.
feel as
My,
good.
yeah. That's why I try to
Yeah.
give him grace, though, because of all the areas that I mess up on still after years and years of therapy. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, we're two flawed people.
But I guess in my mind, you might both be two flawed people, but you're doing the work. You're working on yourself. You're improving. You're putting up boundaries, and you're seeing this person like I guess in my mind, it's kind of like the two of you are running a race together, and like you're pulling ahead, and then you're seeing this person who's like just way. It's hard to do it on video, but you're seeing this person kind of like fall way behind and then eventually choose someone else over you. And I'm suggesting that perhaps the reason that they are choosing someone else over you is they're looking for someone who's more on their level and you're just way ahead.
I don't know if they're choosing anybody else, but they're not choosing time to be with me. So, in essence, they're choosing something.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Maybe yeah,
But
that was me misreading what you were
he
saying.
just
So
says
yeah,
he's
they're
looking for somebody that will accept him exactly the way he is and work to understand him or at least just yeah or understand him or at least accept him the way he is and he's not really interested on working on himself at this point anyways he's
okay.
so that's all I need to know. He's not interested in working on himself.
So kind of going back to the question is, what if you are second choice? But the reason you are second choice is because you're too far ahead.
I mean, I guess we
There's
don't
being
know that.
second.
We can't get inside his head. So if we do a
I
fact check,
can't. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know if he's thinking
especially
about
since
this
he's
at
so
all. He
closed
could
up.
be thinking any of this or none of this. But what you've described is when you've put up boundaries, when you've talked very nicely about boundaries, he kind of drops back. So to me, it sounds like maybe he's not choosing himself. He's not choosing kind of to go forward, and you're going forward.
Well, I think he holds back because he's afraid of intimacy and he's afraid of getting hurt. So
Okay. So
he
let's,
wants somebody to chase him because he wants to know that they're 100% there for him because he's scared to death and he feels so flawed. I mean, he'll say that.
yeah,
He says
yeah,
he's broken and he's looking for another broken person. He did say that before. And I'm like, number one, you're not broken. Nobody's broken. We just have to find
yeah, yeah,
underneath our
yeah,
trauma. Yeah. But,
yeah,
and he just doesn't feel like he's good enough. He'll say that too. Yes.
yeah.
And he's, yeah, drinks a lot. So he has a lot of trauma.
So so you said you kind of you felt like you kind of regressed. You started having some patterns that you kind of hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm around stable, secure people, even though I find them boring, I don't have these behaviors.
Hmm.
I'm a little bit of a chameleon too, but working on that more. But if I'm by myself, I am perfectly healthy. I become
Hmm.
an avoidant, but is that really the where we need to go?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did get to the point, yeah, I'm okay. It would be nice to be in a relationship, but in some ways, I might live a longer life if I don't get in one, if I'm going to be like this, you know? So I have like three options: stay single and stable and okay, fake it and just date somebody that's healthy and be bored. And actually, my ex husband had different issues, but we don't need to go into that. But I was depressed all 12 years I was married because I didn't have that dynamic with him. It was
Hmm.
a different kind of dynamic. Or the third option is the guys that I'm attracted to, where it's this intermittent reinforcement and you get these dopamine highs, but then you also have the lows, which is not fun. So you
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah.
I think staying alone might be the best option. I don't know.
Well, when I hear you saying staying alone sounds like the best option, to me that really reminds me of how this guy you're talking about talks about him being broken, because you're talking about it as if it's this permanent state of being instead of just like here and now.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm going into it with blind faith, and I don't have any real life examples. I know lots of people like me that are in therapy that I've met
Hmm.
in other groups online that still haven't figured out how to date healthy. The number one biggest thing I've learned in my years of therapy is to accept me the way I am and not judge myself. And that's been
Hmm.
huge because then I don't identify, like it's not a label over me.
Hmm.
But
So
could
you
it
have a
happen?
lot of,
It might be, it could happen.
yeah, and what you're saying is you have a lot of evidence from a few different perspectives that there is a possibility that you won't find somebody, so that is
I mean, and I
re
do get asked out a lot.
yeah.
I know I'm not drop dead gorgeous, but there are men that do ask me out. But I just like I am like so avoidant with them. I like don't even because I don't want to leave people on. Like I won't answer them. And I had started dating. I talked to you about that. I can't do it because I'm not over
Yeah,
this
yeah,
guy.
yeah. Hmm. So let's go back to that pain.
Yeah,
You said there was sadness.
yeah,
Can you feel that sadness right now?
yeah. Because you're coaching me, so it's a little safer. I know it seems like it'd be the opposite, but it's hard for me to experience it on my own. I'm
Can you
forced
can
right
you
here,
tell me kind of where you feel it? Like where do you feel it in your body?
in my
Right
heart.
there?
Yeah, the heaviness in my chest.
Can you take a minute and sit up straight and just Taking a deep breath and let it out. So I guess when I think of attachment patterns and or patterns within myself, I kind of think of it in terms of waves. So there's the good waves, there's the bad waves, and sometimes the worst waves are after I have a really good wave and it seems like everything is really great again, and then everything crashes against the shore and it falls apart again. But as you suggested that maybe this time is a little bit different than last time in terms of
It's not quite, I mean, it's still intense, but I don't know if it's because I don't judge myself.
that, I mean, that can make a huge difference if you're not judging yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it was really bad before. Like, I even went to like Alcoholics Anonymous because I didn't know where else to go. I was like trying to different, and I don't even drink just because it's like in a form of an addiction, I guess maybe. What
Yeah.
are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to act out.
Hmm.
Because that's usually what I'll do is just some type of intense distraction. It has to be equally intense of a distraction
Mm-hmm.
from what that emotion would be. So like I have quit college before. Luckily I got back in. I put my house up for sale to move. So I put all my energy into moving, worked. And then I have booked a trip like for Florida, leaving like 3 days later, not even knowing if I could get off work.
Mm-hmm.
So I went contact. It was the same guy actually after the first breakup several years ago, and I left for Florida. Luckily, I was able to get it off work, but I just didn't know. I'm like, well, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing because maybe for my mental health, I needed it, but it
Mm-hmm.
seems on the outside a little impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, no trip booking right now. But it's pretty nice here in Michigan. So maybe if it was winter, I feel like I'm going to Florida tomorrow.
So what I'm hearing from you is that you kind of like you try to find the an experience with the same intensity of the emotions that you're feeling. So you
Yeah,
kind of cover up those emotions with the intensity of the feeling.
with a trigger especially. But yeah, yeah, it's bad. Okay, that was a judgment, but I mean, I would explain more, but I'm not willing to be that vulnerable. I mean, it's not
Oh
really.
yeah, that's fine. That's
We're
yeah.
doing
This
this
is
is
this
going
is a
on
recorded
YouTube. I won't
session.
give you
We can
others. I won't give you other examples, but
yeah,
I've never been in trouble with the law or anything like that.
yeah.
So never been
I
locked
don't
up.
know.
But, if somebody has had the experience, I don't judge either. Just FYI.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
not going to
yeah.
incriminate myself or anything here. But yeah.
I'm trying to think where do we go from here? I will admit, doing this online is for me definitely a different experience, and definitely I feel more pressure than I usually do in these sessions, which is really interesting and good learning experience.
Well, it's the first one. Oh, you're better. You're doing fine.
Thank you.
So yeah, I don't know. I know the key is feeling those emotions, and this sucks because I don't know. I do like that high, and I'm scared of heights, so I can't like do like jump out of airplane or anything like that. Or skydiving.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, to me that sounds like a coping mechanism, and it
Yes.
can be really coping mechanisms can be really enjoyable.
Well, yeah, the coping mechanism isn't actually enjoyable. the enjoyable part is when that person is invested in me and they're love bombing me and giving me attention. So there's my dopamine high. The when they go away, that's when the pain comes, and then that's when I have to distract. I'm trying to think what I would call that because there's got to be some chemical. I wouldn't say
Hmm.
it's enjoyable, but it
Like we're
might
talking about the distraction now.
adrenaline be like a negative adrenaline. Yeah, it'd be like I don't know. It's kind
I
of
am not. Yeah,
when
I'm not
okay. So
qualified
I'm not
to.
diagnosed. This is coming out here. So if anybody's familiar with borderline, they will know because maybe some of the people in this group have it. But they say that when you get into a trigger state, you kind of don't. And I hate labels, by the way, but it's kind of like you're in this disassociated state, probably to lock yourself out from. But you kind of don't necessarily have a filter, and maybe I wouldn't say not a conscience, but you're almost like a psychopath, like factor two, if you're familiar with that. There's factor one and factor two. Factor two is they still have empathy, maybe not when they're in the trigger, but um, so you might do things that are either mainly self-destructive to your own self, not to other people, but it could indirectly hurt other people. But it's a quick
So
thing just for like a day or two. Yeah.
so how? But so you are feeling. You are in a triggered state right now, or you're not in a
No,
triggered state.
well, so there's different levels of triggers. So what I'm feeling now is more just a sense of loss in the stages of grief, which I'm still going to feel that more intensely. My trigger would be like I could re-trigger myself, for example. So I messaged him yesterday. I
Hmm.
guess I could be coming off on one. It wasn't as bad of a trigger. What he didn't respond. So anytime somebody's going to ignore me, that is a trigger.
What was it like when you didn't respond?
Well, at first it
How?
wasn't so bad because I think I was playing a mind game with myself. Like, oh, he's not going to reply right now. And I was just fixing it in my head and telling myself it didn't matter because I just said I missed him and hope he was doing well.
When was the previous time that you had messaged him?
17 days before when I talked to him on the phone and he said, everybody leaves me. And you said you're going off to date other men. You told me goodbye. I can't do this anymore. And then he's like, just don't message me. And then he hung up with me. But he sounded like he was going to cry too. So I don't know. So in back of my head, I was, oh, and I sent him the email and I apologize. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I hurt him so bad. And like, I had this big, huge heart of empathy and like my heart broke for him. But the ball's in his court. I should have left it there because I sent him that email. I said, from the bottom of my heart, please forgive me. This is why,
Hmm.
if you would have just told me you needed space instead of just running off, but it was still wrong because I can't expect you to be responsible for my reactions and my triggered state. That's my
Hmm.
reactions I'm responsible for. Your behavior you're responsible for. And
So he's
wonder what you need
responsible.
from me to help you feel safe, but he won't respond. So
So
there.
he's responsible for his own actions, but you can also communicate like your needs in terms of his
Yeah. I
communication.
said, because it's hard for him. He said before, difficult conversations are hard for him because when he was young or whatever, he wasn't allowed. So he just shuts down. Because when he
Hmm.
tried telling somebody before that they didn't listen to his needs. But
Okay.
yeah. And I said you could send me a thumbs up because that's kind of like an inside joke for us. I don't know. We've just done it for years, a thumbs up for
Hmm.
different things. And he could send me that if it's too hard for him to say I need space, which I'm thinking, why would it be hard to say? But looking back on it, he says that it has nothing to do, but I know he was triggered because I said he hurt my feelings. Like that seems like such a small thing, but he was hurt, but he didn't tell me. And he
Hmm.
apologized. And then I just lit it. So I make it worse because I just lit into him and it escalated because he didn't reply. So then I just kept poking the bear, I guess.
Yeah. 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 If he's more on the avoidant side, it sounds like he's pretty avoidant.
I think I hurt him.
Then when he shut down, or when he's like when he's not ready for it, it's probably really difficult for him to reach out. And that can really bring up a lot of feelings on the anxious side, where it sounds like you're coming from, where, he kind of stops. So you're just like, I need to poke, poke, poke so I can get like
Well,
something out
because
there.
I
Like,
get triggered. I know, but that's not fair. If I really loved him, I would give him his space. And I try so hard. Like I did, I tried so hard. I got ice and I put it on my head, and ice
is
worked.
is that being fair to yourself? Be-
Well, I
because
have
like,
to learn
yes,
how to control my triggers.
sure, but like,
What am I supposed to do? Scream more?
no, I just mean to be in a situation where you kind of have to be under so much self-control to be conscious of this other person.
No.
Like, yeah,
I mean,
he
there
has
is
these.
sacrifices, but it shouldn't be a, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to say
Not
what's right or what's wrong, and I think you can make those choices. But like you choosing to be in a relationship with someone who's on the avoidance side and them not working on their own aspect of it, that leaves you a lot of work to do.
for
And if you're on the anxious side, that's probably going to be really, really painful.
supposedly I'm fearful avoidant, but he's so avoidant that it makes me more anxious, I think. It
Yeah,
changes
yeah,
what,
yeah.
although he did
And
take a test and he was supposedly fearful avoidant as well. But what do you know?
yeah, well, I mean,
It's all
from
self,
from
yeah.
yeah,
We
from a
might not know.
non-medical, I'm not claiming any authority here type. If you're fearful avoidant and he's fearful avoidant and he's on the avoidant side of fearful avoidant and you're on the anxious
Right,
side
right.
of fearful avoidant, then you're just kind of playing still the anxious and avoidant role with each other.
Right, because in other relationships, it might not have looked like this.
Yeah. And if you start acting more secure, or if you had acted more secure, it's possible he would switch more over to the anxious side. It's
Right.
possible.
I think
I
that
don't
when
know.
he took that test, he was looking, and I kind of did too, at from all your relationships, because you could take that test based on the one you're in or all
Hmm.
encompassing, and it could change the results. I,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he had more avoidant than me, but he was kind of even with all of them, and secure was like 6%. My
Hmm.
secure was like 23, 24, 25 even, but if I were to take it right now, and then the 30s with fearful, avoidant, and anxious was like maybe 4 or 5 less.
Yeah. I will say that I do caution to take the test with a grain of salt because
Yeah, this was a tough.
yeah, I don't know. I gave up on the test for the most part a while ago for myself because I just don't even know how to answer half the questions.
I mean, sometimes I can be hot and cold. That's more fearful when, like, there's sometimes when if he was into me, the times he has, not as bad, but I might be like,
So yeah, it's hard. It's really hard when there's someone that you care about who you have some connection with them and you're maybe not really getting your needs met, but you're getting some energy exchange with them, even if it is
I'm
coming in
gonna
the
get my
form of
needs met like maybe 30 to 40% of the time. Because when he
yeah,
comes back, he's like all in.
yeah.
But I
Yeah,
don't think
so you have
I
like
mean,
basically these really large
it's so
piles
easy.
of breadcrumbs, but they're still breadcrumbs.
The breadcrumbs, yeah, and you're
Yeah,
looking at it
yeah,
like it's a big loaf, and then if and over time you learn to accept less and less because you get
yeah.
deconditioned. To that, yeah, that's about what
Yeah,
it is.
so it's kind of you kind of grow into this negative cycle together, whereas like there's a big breadcrumb and everything's kind of like great for a little bit, and then he possibly gets more kind of more vulnerable and then a little bit more
He gets more vulnerable and
avoidant,
yeah.
and then you get a little more anxious and just kind of keep climbing down the ladder until there's tiny little bits of breadcrumbs and almost nothing is there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really painful.
Yeah, it is.
And it's hard because
Boring's looking better all the time.
uh,
I don't know.
it's it's hard because I don't know, people I don't know, like there's kind of the whole question of is there love in there? Is there not love in there? Is it all just like kind of
You hate it when people
the,
say, "Do you really love him or do you love the idea of him?" And I get in a little mini trigger with that. Like I just want to slap him in the face.
yeah, I can
I said,
understand that.
like, it's love in my mind, and I was like, "How dare them? They can't get inside my head." I
Yeah,
mean,
I
there. Granted, maybe I'm love is more of an action than a feeling. And when I get in my triggered state, I will do things that are not loving, but
yeah,
that's my trauma response. But when I come out of it, I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm like heartbroken for hurting the person that I love.
yeah,
So
yeah,
to
yeah,
me,
yeah,
that
yeah.
means it's my trauma. It doesn't mean I don't love this person.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Like in my mind, it's kind of like there actually is this love here, but the problem is the coping mechanisms are like these giant like monsters above the love,
Oh,
and
I know.
I think often it's kind of like the coping mechanisms end up taking over the relationship.
They do.
So even if there's love there, it's kind of like those two small magnets aren't really going to do very much against these giant machines.
I
You have to
know.
like
Because if you don't love yourself, then you can't love somebody else. But I mean, I do love myself for certain
I
aspects.
will
I
say I'm not a huge fan of the if you don't love yourself, you
like
can't
the
love another person either, but kind of for the same reason, because I think it's kind of like you do, or at least this is the way I kind of look at it, is like I do love myself. I just might also have big monster coping mechanisms that kind of make it really hard for me to act from that place of love.
yeah. And I also think self esteem is not like I think it's not always the same. Like it fluctuates. Some days I might feel like I don't have a lot of self esteem, but other days I'm perfectly fine with my self image. So I don't know. I don't think it's
Yeah.
always the same. It's not always stable.
So that's kind of goes back to the wave metaphor that I think about a lot for all
Mhm.
of this. It's like there's some days where it's going to be a calm sea, and there's other days where it's going to be giant waves. And like kind of part of the reason I wanted you to journal was not so much to dig into what's happening, but just to create a little more awareness of what's happening and maybe reassure yourself that hey, I'm in a big wave right now, and eventually I'll be out of the big wave. Like this is going to pass at some point.
That is helpful. And I that's another thing I have learned in therapy. So I don't know why I'm stubborn, but my counselor years ago. No, this is a she goes, how much percent of the time do you think in your life you should be happy, you know? And I so told her 70 to 75%. And she looked at me and she said, do you realize we have more negative emotions than positive? And I like at that point in time, I was like in shock when she said that. Like it depressed me for a while. Like I
Mm-hmm.
could not grasp that concept because I always wanted Disneyland every day.
Mm-hmm.
Her goal is not happiness, it's joy. But she said, you have more negative emotions. You might only be happy, purely happy, like maybe 2 or 3 days a week. You
Yeah,
can have
yeah,
days where you're okay, maybe, but and for me,
yeah,
I expect like this big high or something. I don't know. I did,
yeah,
but I've learned
yeah,
when I was talking about during
yeah.
the whole COVID isolation thing or whatever. Um, it got to the point where it was peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't bored. I found stuff to do.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
I don't know if maybe it's just the brain chemistry for that whole addiction thing. Like, yeah, it sucks, but you gotta be patient and take the time. I'm not good with patience for that to settle where you actually because your brain is adjusted to that and you think that's like the best thing ever. But once that fades away, then the other will just seem like I'll prefer the serenity or something again.
I guess the way I kind of think of it is when my when there's no reason for my coping mechanism to come out, it's
Mm.
easier to kind of like slowly go towards peace. So it's like getting kind of cut off from the world. It's like, yeah, like you're not going out. There's a lot of things that are kind of missing. So it kind of like calm down. But then when things start changing again and like my coping mechanism can kind of like hook on to something, then it's a lot more likely I'm going to fall back into those patterns.
So I haven't had to use my coping mechanisms because I was isolating myself. So I really wasn't healing. I was staying away from everybody. Oh no,
I
you might be
I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
right.
I don't I think that it's you had a different like I think there's a lot of good arguments for why a lot of what like changing things is really just about self-awareness, not really making changes. I mean, this is why the journaling exercise I wanted you to do is just kind of being aware of what's happening more than
I did
anything
make
else.
2 journal entries, but they were just like 2 sentences. But yeah,
Two sentences is fine. It's
it was
like
about what I was feeling, and yeah.
that's perfect. That's awesome. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for these like big, deep entries. We're looking for just like little tiny bit here and a little tiny bit here. It could be one sentence, it can be one word. Like
Okay.
the point is to try to get into that journal and create that new pattern. And like creating new patterns can be really hard. So give yourself credit for that 2 sentences because that's what actually matters. You don't need to like do something big. It's do
Eloquent.
something at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um,
I mean, I can go get it, but it was, yeah, basically how
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Just I'd say just keep working on it. Like with I don't know, for exercise routines, it's like my goal is to do like a certain number of exercises per day. And when I started doing it, it was like, okay, so I want to do like I need to make sure I do one push-up a day.
yeah,
Like that's how I get a win.
I've done that. Yeah.
And once I started doing that, I kind of slowly built up to the point where it's I'm doing a lot more and my expectations of myself are a lot higher. But I built it up slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm trying to walk myself back to what we were just discussing. Um,
Journaling.
before journaling,
Oh.
I'm not sure why I look to the left every time I'm thinking. It's a interesting thing I'm noticing about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh yeah. So one of the things you said is you noticed when from like the isolation you were kind of getting to a place of more peace. And we're talking, it's possible that you didn't have the connection to some of your coping mechanisms at that time, or you didn't have a reason to kind of use them and in that kind of
I had like maybe two
maybe
triggers in like a year.
what
Yeah,
sorry, could you repeat that?
I only had like 2 triggers in a year versus like
Yeah,
a month or something.
yeah. So I would just look at that is the goal is to slowly work towards getting back there. You saw that you figured out a way to get back there. And now we're looking at methods to kind of create more awareness around your triggers and around your feelings to kind of like slowly walk you back to a place where you're feeling more at peace.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not subject myself to spots where I could be put in that big of a trigger, but it's hard.
Yeah. But controlling one's actions is a lot harder than creating small bits of awareness around one's actions.
Say that again.
So controlling your actions is harder than creating little bits of awareness around those
So,
actions.
like somebody that's on a diet says, I can't have any cookies. I'm not going to have a cookie. That's all you think about. And then it's really fixing this up here, like, because, food
Yeah.
can be addiction too. Like, why are you? And then, yeah, better
Yeah.
have, because we all need
So
food. I don't know if I guess we all need love, but
like I mean, and I think there's a lot of different ways to approach targets. But since we are working together and this isn't just like a one-off thing that's happening, like kind of in my mind part of the process is okay, well the first step is just writing stuff down. Like this is what I'm noticing. This is kind of what's happening. Create more awareness around those things. Talk about those things more and keep creating more awareness so that when you're doing it, you're more mindful when you're actually doing those things. And with that mindfulness and that in my mind create power to start changing things in a stable way, as opposed to just like shutting oneself off. Like, and it might work for somebody to be like, hey, I'm just never gonna have a cookie again, and just like put your foot down. I personally, that's never worked for me. When I've tried diets like that, I've failed pretty hard.
Hmm.
But I found by making small changes, my diet slowly changes and becomes more of what I actually want it
Writing
to
down
be.
what you eat because you're becoming aware of what you eat. That actually helps.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's,
exactly,
it's kind
exactly.
of a form of mindfulness, and then like writing down how many chips. Not that you're being a slave to it, because you don't want to do that, but because if you're just sitting there mindlessly eating the chips, you might have the whole bag for just so you're becoming aware. Yeah,
And you might not even notice you had that bag.
yeah.
And then
Oh,
you're like, I want another chip, but the
yeah.
bag's empty. So you buy another bag, and then like a whole other
And
bag
your
goes
stomach
by, and
hurts,
you
and you
don't
don't feel good.
necessarily even notice it.
You
Yeah.
don't even feel good anymore. There's no high. You had chips.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly, exactly,
It's not
exactly. So
any
you have to
different
get
than
a you have to
normal.
get a better high than chips this time,
Uh,
and it might be like pints of ice cream. I don't know. That's kind of where my mind goes. Then you put the chips on the ice cream, and
and
it all
salty.
falls
That's
apart.
tonight.
Yeah.
Oh
Hmm.
man.
So how are you feeling right now?
I'm okay.
Okay. Can you feel that sadness?
I still feel that sadness
Where can you talk to me more about where you're feeling it?
there.
Is it in the same place as it was before?
My heart, it is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just asking. No judgment. No wanting it to change or anything else. Just like noticing.
Hmm.
Um, I I tend to think that we are here to feel, or that's a big part of why we're here. And like sadness, I don't think is a bad thing unless it's something that's completely overwhelming. And even the overwhelmingness, I'm wondering, I kind of wonder if there's some thought patterns back behind the sadness that is making it so it's overwhelming, and it's not. I
I think
wonder if
I know
it's
what
not
it
really
is.
the sadness
I
itself.
know what it is. I think they just figured it out. I don't
What?
want to feel the sadness because I'm not ready to let them go. Because in the back of my mind, I still want them to come
Mm,
back. So it's more the fear of letting go.
okay, I can understand the
Because
fear of letting go.
I'm around a fantasy that he will be back.
Hmm. Okay.
That's what it is.
Hmm. So
Because
could you say that again?
if I have to grieve that, that means it's done. And
Okay.
I don't want to lose him because I love him.
Okay. Yeah. What does it mean when you say you love them?
Um, I accept all of him, even with his mistakes, but I mean, I have to love myself too. I mean, there are elements in our relationship, things that I appreciate about him.
Hmm.
He's not a bad person.
Hmm.
He just has stuff to work on.
Hmm.
And just
So
time
I.
we spent together and just how he caters to my needs. When he's all in, he's all in. That's the problem. Like, he does have empathy when he's all in.
Hmm.
He'll help do things around. He took my TV brackets down when he was here last time, and then takes me out to eat, buys me dinner, and just compliments me and sends me sweet messages. But then, then he just
Mm,
himself. So yeah, it's hard.
yeah. Do you want to let them go?
No, but it's the ball's in his court. It sounds like he let me go, although he tries to say it was me letting
I'm
him.
I'm I'm not talking about kind of in the physical world. I'm talking about internally. Do you want to let them go, or do you want to hold on to that sadness?
Can I keep him without having the sadness?
I don't know.
No, probably not. Because he's not here physically.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah. My guess is you're right. You probably can't keep them without holding on to that sadness. So do
I
you
have
want to
to
hold
let him
on to that
go
sadness?
to allow for other things to enter my life. That's because if I'm holding on to somebody who's not even here, then I might
Hmm.
be missing out on something in the future.
It's possible, but I mean the future's in the future. It's not like you need to like run towards this imaginary future right now. Like I'm
No,
not saying should you be holding on to
I
him
have to
for like
heal
the next.
myself, be healed enough to date again, and I'm not.
Yeah. But like are you wanting to start dating to like do you feel a need to date tomorrow or is
No, I
there a
thought you
rush?
said, but I no, because it'll hurt me more.
What I mean though is do you feel rushed to start dating right now?
No,
Okay. So if you hold on to the sadness for a little while longer, like is there anything that's actually gonna happen in your life that's bad from holding on to that sadness?
then I might reach out to him, and that's not a good idea.
Okay. So the risk in holding on to the
Realistic.
sadness, the risk in holding on to the sadness is that you might reach out to him. That's what I'm hearing from
Maybe,
you.
maybe that might be it, but it's not gonna be good because it lessens the
Hmm.
chances that he would ever come back. Not that
Okay.
it's about that, but I mean, he's
Is it
not gonna.
about that? Because you just brought it up. Is it about that?
Well, it's not supposed to be about that.
Okay. So what is it supposed to be
It's supposed to
about?
be about me and my
Okay.
needs and having my needs met as a worthy, valuable person and loving myself
Hmm.
and not focusing on, oh, I should go into another relationship or, oh, I'm letting him go. Just focusing on how things are affecting me and my needs, and what he decides is what he decides. I can't decide if he wants to be with me or if he wants,
Hmm.
to run away all the time. So
Yeah.
I can only control myself.
Okay. So kind of going back to holding on to the sadness, and the risk is that you might call him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not going to do anything.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it, because it would, even if it did, then he's still going to be with me just because I'm chasing him, not because he wants to be with me. If he
That
always
sounds that
wants,
sounds fair.
he doesn't want to put forth, he's afraid he's going to get hurt. So he's going to keep a little bit back. Like you said, he
Hmm.
doesn't share his feelings because he's
Hmm.
afraid of getting hurt.
Hmm. Is he someone that's healthy to be with for you?
40% of the time.
Okay.
It depends. You have to decide, am I going to, if I could, if I was more stable,
Hmm.
it probably would be a lot easier. But this is just where I'm at now
Hmm.
because I take things so personally and get triggered. Where if I was stable, I'd be able to handle it better.
Hmm.
Or if I was avoidant, then I just wouldn't give a shit. I'd be like, oh, space, cool, go your way. I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Though.
And actually, I would be fine with that. I do have a little bit of that in me. If it was communicated to me, I would be
Yeah.
totally fine. I can be on my own. So you do your 2 weeks, I'll do mine, then we'll come back. Because it might be too much for me too. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
I'd be dating the healthy men. Maybe that in my face is a little scary. So a
How
little
how
bit
how would
breaking
it
it out.
feel?
It would
How
be
would it feel if you were with someone who was really in your face and really wanted one, and like if you didn't call them back right away or you didn't text them back right away,
it's a little
they
creepy. Like, ew. No, I mean, it is a little bit. I'm kind of
okay.
more that way in the beginning. I'm
Hmm. Say that again. You're kind
that
of
way in the beginning until it's more them chasing me at first, and then they
hmm,
trigger my abandonment wound, and then all of a sudden they got me, and then power's in their hand. Darn it.
hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
would totally be fine with that as long as it was communicated. Open communication is totally the key. I could accept whatever. I'm not that bad off. Like if somebody tells me, I can deal with it.
Yeah.
Say,
But
hey,
you tend
big
to be
space. I'll be like,
attracted.
whoa, that's fine. Huh?
You tend to be attracted to people who either don't have the capability or willingness to have that communication with you.
I don't know if that's actually necessarily true, but I'm attracted to avoidant men. But I did have one that was in recovery
Hmm.
who was able to. It still don't work out, but that's a story for another day. But
Okay. All right. All right.
yeah, he would tell me. He was a little more
Mhm.
direct and blunt about it, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it it would have worked out, but he just it's a long story, but
Okay. Yeah, we can go into that another time.
you'll find it interesting.
Yeah.
He's passed away now, so it's kind of sad. See,
Oh, I'm
he handed
sorry.
me in death, but not when I was with him. But yeah,
Yeah.
he was able to
Yeah.
provide me with closure. But
Hmm.
yeah, he was actually a recovering narcissist, which yeah, it's really
Hmm.
interesting. Intense therapy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so we're kind of coming up on an hour where I don't really want to have a hard limit on this because we can kind of go beyond that. Um, but is there anything you think we should kind of go back to before we end this?
not that I can think of.
Okay.
It's
Well, let
too.
me let me just think for a minute. Um, yeah, I feel pretty good about ending this right here.
Yeah.
Um, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate that you're willing to kind of go through this experiment with me. This has been entertaining.
Yeah.
I love how our walls are kind of similar color. It almost looks like we could be in the same room together.
Yeah, this is actually well, my son's room. He's at U of M now, but it worked
Hmm.
out because there's a desk in here. Give you my
Oh,
laptop.
nice, nice. Yeah.
So this is going on YouTube or not yet?
So not yet. So
Watch
so
it.
first
We have to edit
first
it.
thing we're gonna do is not planning to edit it, but first thing is just share it in the group
Oh,
and kind of get
the
feedback from other people in the
the
group
book
and
group. The
and
book group.
kind
Not
of see what they have
the
to
group or
say.
the book group.
The small group.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Not the
Yeah.
9,000 people. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Much
those
different.
who will be watching, we're part of two different Facebook groups. One of them has 9,000 people in it, and the other one has, I think, maybe 30, maybe 40 people in it. So we're gonna share this in the small group first. Um, I'm gonna record a few more and then share it in the bigger group, and then eventually, when enough are recorded, it's gonna go up on Facebook or on YouTube. But we're gonna have some feedback before then.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Bye.